Hey everybody! I know, I'm a couple minutes late. I wonder where everybody is. Maybe I didn't post early enough. I just want to make sure that everybody who wants to get on can get on. So, hey! I'm glad you're here. Do you want to share this in the other group? Can you share it in the other group? You're more than welcome to. The challenge group. I was going to message you. Can you hear me? Hello! Oh, I see myself. Okay. Okay. I wonder if I can try to. I don't think it'll let me. I can see myself talking. I tried to post when it would be, I don't know if anybody, I have to see the comments. Oh yeah, it was me who sent a message that said it will be recorded. Hey Barb, welcome! Okay, awesome. I'm doing this on my phone because my my webcam is wonky and I have to get it replaced. I have to get a new one. Okay, so did you guys were you guys able to download this? It's under the Files tab, the goal setting. So, were you guys able to get this? Make sure that you download it. Okay, so we're going to talk about goal setting. This is the beginning of the year, and I think that for so long we have been taught how to set goals, not improperly, just not thoroughly, and not where we really get the results. Okay, so it's there, and I'm going to start from the beginning, and it talks about great goals. And I think everybody knows goals. The thing that makes a really good goal is if it's outcome focused. We know what we want to achieve, right? So, and it's where we focus on our why. Like the last couple days, I'm like, what's your why? What's your why? What's your why? And I've seen quotes on this and I wholeheartedly believe it. If you know what your why is, the how isn't so hard. You're not overwhelmed by the how because you know, you just know, right? So the why has to be the biggest thing, your why, right? And here's a huge nugget. Your why is not the weight. Your why is not the weight. That's why when people talk about, and that's why, little WHY, when people say, well, I want to lose 200 pounds or 150 pounds or, you know, whatever the number on the scale is, that's not big enough. Because you don't know what life is gonna be like when you get there. You can imagine, you can visualize, you have an idea, but that number doesn't mean anything. So it's not your why. A good example of a deeper why is, I want to be able to take care of my family. I want to be able to help my grandchildren. I want to be able to play with my grandchildren. Because you can associate feelings, emotions, with that why. The number on the scale is not enough because the number on the scale is only representative of what you can do once you get there. Are you with me? But that in and of itself is not going to get you there because if a piece of chocolate or a piece of food is sitting in front of you and you're like, okay, if I get to 155 or a piece of chocolate, $155 or a piece of chocolate. So your brain goes, oh my gosh, that's going to be so hard. F this, I'll take the chocolate. Yes, 15 grandchildren. Are you being serious right now? I believe you. I gotta turn off my heater. Sorry. Hey, Annie. Okay, so your outcome has to include your big why. And so assignment number 1, figure out your big why. It's got to be in line with your values. So the more that your goals align with your core values, the easier it's going to be to achieve. But if your core values are somehow rubbing up against your big why, it's going to be harder to achieve. So let me give an example. And it's going to come back to weight loss, but it's not going to have anything to do with weight loss at first. So, trying to think of a good one that's like in line with values. So it's usually harder and less satisfying if you don't have a goal that's in line with your values. So, and I can't think of anything off the top of my head. I'm just going to have to skip it and come back. But it's got to be, I'm thinking about like, when we talk about your values, you've got to have something at your core that it resonates with you. So, and it's got to be a good, enthusiastic why. Hey, Jill. I'm going to look something up here. So, when we talk about your values, and I can give you like a core values list. Like, usually a core's values list goes to like what really resonates with you. Like loyalty, leadership, honesty, happiness, creativity, balance, autonomy. So let's say your goal, here's a good one. Okay, so let's take someone who has had to depend on somebody else for a really long time. And your goal is to be independent, right? And your one of your core values is autonomy. So autonomy and independence are really close together. So you being in line with that, it's going to be easier for you to achieve your goal because you're going to achieve autonomy and independence are kind of like one and the same. But if you know that someone else depends on you and you're going to feel guilty because your core value is autonomy and you're not, then it might be harder for you to achieve that goal because then you start self-sabotaging because you feel guilty for stepping out on your own. Does that resonate? Do people get where I'm going with that? Because you feel that you need to help that other person or that relationship's going to fall by the wayside. And then the next thing is you've got to state your goal in a positive manner. So on the sheet it says, I want healthy fingernails versus I want to stop biting my nails. So here's the other thing that happened today. I was working with a client and she and I were talking. She was like, I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that. And so I said, do you know what happens psychologically when you say that you don't want to do something? And she was like, what? And I said, it makes you want to do it more. And I used the example of a cookie. And I said, let's just imagine for a second that I put a cookie in front of you. She was like, yeah. And I said, but I tell you, you can't have the cookie. And she was like, okay. I said, what are you thinking about? She goes, the cookie. And I'm like, exactly. So the more that you're focused on, I can't have this, I can't have that, I can't do this, I can't have that, or I can't do that, the more that you want it. This specifically that I'm talking about is not necessarily goal setting, but it's something I want you to implement while you're goal setting. And that is it healthy? Is it helpful? Is it helping me get to where I want to be? Is it healthy? Is it helpful? Is it growing me? Is it getting me to where I want to be? Those three little things are going to help you in terms of stating the positive versus stating the negative, right? Because the whole cookie thing, like, oh my gosh, I want a cookie, gotta have a cookie, or can't have a cookie, can't have a cookie. It's like, but is it really going to serve you? It's not that you can't have it. And that's my philosophy. If I really want a cookie, I can have a cookie. But I choose not to have a cookie. Why? Because it's not going to serve my ultimate goals. It's not going to necessarily serve your ultimate goals. But we've got to get to a point to slow your brain down, or to slow you down enough to get you to that place where you can actually get to that mindful place. I know that some people aren't even there. I know some people that just, oh my gosh, I just put that in my mouth. So there are steps for this. But in terms of goal setting, outcome focused. So what's your deeper why? And it's not the number on the scale, even though that's a byproduct. That's what we're going to be working on, but that's not the outcome in and of itself. Because when you focus on the number on the scale, you get easily disappointed when the number on the scale doesn't move. But when you focus on your big why, that's a result of what you achieve from the number on the scale, then you start to see the scale move, because you're focused on what really, really matters to you emotionally. Okay. Everybody knows about SMART goals: specific, measurable, action-oriented, realistic, time-bound. So it's important to be specific, that if you're talking about something like, I want to get into a size 12 jeans. Okay, if you want to get into a size 12 jeans, that's a more of a realistic goal or outcome in terms of a stepping stone. If you're going from a size 26 to a size 4, that's too big of a step too quickly. You've got to be specific, but you've got to baby step it. So if you're going from a 26, jump to a 22, and then jump to an 18, and then jump, that kind of thing. Because if you're going too far too fast, you're going to get disappointed that, oh, I'm not there yet. And then the comparison. Okay, so specific. So I want to get into this size, or get into this dress, or achieve 12 push-ups, and then the other thing that I want you to think about is, what's the feeling that you'll get once you get there? What's the feeling that's associated with it? Okay, and then give yourself, hey, Diana. So specific, knowing exactly what you want to achieve, right? Measurable. How will you know when you've achieved it? Well, because the pants fit, right? Action-oriented. So you can do something about it. So what are you going to do, right? Maybe it's, you're going to meal plan. You're going to exercise, right? So, and then you create your little action steps. Realistic. Is this achievable in a specific period of time, right? So you give yourself enough time. So you've got to make sure it's realistic. So if you're going from a 26 to a 4, we know as bariatric patients that can happen quickly. But if you're only giving yourself 3 or 4 months, that's not realistic. So you've got to be realistic with it. You've got to know that you're going to have stalls, and you've got to, I tell people to include those in. Estimate a stall. Prepare for a stall. Time bound. Have a deadline, right? And have fun with it. This is a time deadline to have fun with, not one where you're like, oh my gosh, I've got 5 days. I've got 5 days and I've got to get to a size 4. Ah! No, because stress is not going to help you get to that goal. It's not going to help you. It's actually going to push you farther away from that goal. So that's why the realistic part is important, because you want to make sure that you can achieve that goal, not with ease per se, but with enough time that you've got it in the bag, right? Are you guys with me? Any questions so far? I know a lot of people know about SMART goals. Any questions so far? I don't see any comments. But if you guys, for those of you that jumped on, this is in the Files tab, and it says Goal Setting Workshop Worksheet. And I am just getting to focusing on the outcome. So here's the thing. When I talked about what's your why, when you understand your why, everything else becomes clearer, right? So when we talk about focusing on the outcome, what is it that you really want here? And I would say it's more than one thing. It's not just one thing. It's multiple things. So your why could be, right, taking care of your kids, or cooking for a big family. Your why could be that you're able to run around with your grandchildren. Dig deep there. What is it that you really want? What is it that means to you? What's the specific outcome that you're looking for? What is the pain of not achieving this goal? Right? So it's important that we focus on the feelings. What's the pain if you don't achieve this goal? And what's the feeling that you'll have when you do achieve this goal? Okay? So that's where you'll also find some of that motivation. So it's important that. So when we talk about if it's aligning with your values, is this goal in line with your life vision or your overall life plan? Right? So if you don't know, what's your gut feel about it? Right? And when it talks about, is this in line with your values, what's really important to you in life? Right? Because I know people talk about, and I used to think this way too, like, oh man, once I get this weight off, everything's going to open up. And I can only speak for myself when I say that once I lost the weight, it didn't get easier, and I didn't necessarily know who I was anymore, because for so long I had focused on the weight, that when it did came off, I was like, okay, now what am I doing? Now what am I doing, right? So it's important that you know what your values are and you get clear on what those values are so you can take the next steps and to kind of get off of this weight fluctuating roller coaster. So, and are these goals something that you truly want, or is it something that you think you should want or should be doing, right? I have a client who, her mom wanted her to go to law school. So she went to law school, and she started working with me after law school because her mom thought she needed to pass the bar and get a job. She didn't want to. That's not what she wanted for herself. So what did she do to kind of stuff down her feelings? Anybody? Right? She ate them because she was so disappointed in herself that she couldn't be who her mom really wanted her to be. But that wasn't her goal. That was her mom's goal. And then when we finally figured out what she wanted to do, she started building a company based on her goals. And she got the guts to really say, like, thanks for the law degree, but that's not what I want. That's not what I wanted. So whatever it is that you want to do, you've got to be brave enough to acknowledge it, first of all. And then look at, is this your goal for you or someone else's goal for you? That's essential. And then think about what this goal does. Does it give you a deep sense of contentment, happiness, excitement, that kind of thing? So you guys are quiet. If anybody has any questions, just go ahead and pop them in. All right. And here's another one. I'm on question number 8. If you could have the goal right now, would you take it? And what potential issues could you see coming up if you were at this goal right now? What would that goal be? And I know that for a lot of people, it's hitting your weight loss goal. Oh, thank you, Barb. I'm like, everybody's so quiet. Like, if you could have this goal, like, I think that for some people, like, we've all wished, like, okay, I want this and I want this now and I'm ready. And then it comes and you're like, oh, okay, I don't know if I'm ready. So another one of my clients that I worked with today, interestingly enough, I mean, she's a little on the younger side, but she's like, okay, I feel lonely. I'm not dating anybody. I'm single. And, I really want to date someone. And I know that she's not ready to date. I know she's not ready to date because she's scared to death. And I said, so here's what's going to happen. You want this. You say you want this. But what happens is you put yourself out there and then somebody comes into your life, because this has happened before and she and I've discussed it, and then you like self-sabotage because you haven't taken these steps to really work on you. So you keep saying you want somebody else and you feel the loneliness, you get frustrated by the loneliness, and then you jump 10 steps ahead to this goal that you're not ready for yet, that we've all acknowledged she's not ready for yet. And then she gets frustrated with herself because somebody got away. And I'm like, but you're not ready for that yet. And she was like, OMG, yes, yes. So sometimes it's important for us to acknowledge what goals we're ready for, what goals we're not ready for, and what lessons we need to learn in advance, right? And so sometimes we're ready for that goal. Like, I know I was there, like, all right, I'm ready. Give me the skinny. Give me the skinny body, like now. And then you got it, and then it comes, because it does come fast. And when I say fast, I mean, for me, it was 18 months, and it just felt fast. And I was like, okay, so now what? Now, you know, people are going to see me for who I really am, and who really am I? And all of the self-doubt is still there. All of the low self-confidence is still there. And so that's when you've got to work on building yourself up, getting to know you, what it is that you truly desire. Because again, for so long you were fighting fat, you were fighting the weight. And guess what? If the fight's not there anymore, what happens? Well, there's some people who self-sabotage because they're so used to fighting fat that if they continue to fight fat and subconsciously sabotage, then they're going to have something to do. I don't think it's conscious. It's just a pattern of behavior. You're going to continue to fight the fat, right? Or you're so stuck in that emotional overwhelm period that, okay, the pattern is to eat and eat and eat, and it's not necessarily to continue to have the fight with fat, but it's because you don't know how else to calm your brain down when you have stressors, because that was your way to calm your brain down for so long. Okay, so another kind of self-sabotaging thing. Hiding behind the fat. Exactly. So now that you're stepping into who you really want to be, now there's also fear too, because who really are you? So it's a process that you need to re-engage, like who you are, who you want to be, and then acknowledge also the feelings that come up, because yes, you can. I know some people still do stuff it down with food, but that only gets you so far. And then if you continue to do that, either you're going to enter regain, or you're never really going to get to goal, and then your fight with fat continues. I hope this is all making sense. Anyway, so sometimes wanting and receiving the goal right now is not in your best interest. And there's lessons that you need to learn along the way, which a lot of are mental and emotional. They're not about the food, even though they are, but they're really not, because the food is a symptom of the deeper issue. Are you with me? Okay. So how does the goal, going to the next step, how does this goal fit into your life or lifestyle? Think time, effort, commitments, who else might be impacted, right? So meal planning takes time. Exercise takes time. There are other commitments that take time. I do not think, even though these things take time, I think a lot of times we overcomplicate them. So when I'm talking about losing weight or your weight loss process, or that being your goal, I think anybody can work out in their house. Whether they want to or actually do is something completely different. If you feel you need the gym, is needing the gym an excuse? Because if you can't get there because of snow, sleet, rain, or I don't know, another natural disaster, is that your excuse for not reaching goal? Or is it, oh my gosh, it's too far away? For a long time, my gym was 30 minutes away. This was a long time ago. And my excuse was, oh, it's just so far. It's just so far. It's just so far. And I didn't go. And then I got called out on my BS. And I was like, you're right. I need to cancel my gym membership and just work out at home. And I started doing that. And I had a client who was like, you know what? I need to get to yoga 3 days a week. And I said, no, I'm not going to let you spend money on yoga 3 days a week because I know you're not going to go because you have trouble getting to work at 8 a.m. So no, you're not going to, you're not allowed to go buy a yoga membership. When you can do yoga videos on YouTube for 3 or 4 days a week for a month, then you can go get a yoga membership, but not until you've proven that you're committed to doing it, period. And she was like, OMG, you're right. So if you're struggling with commitment, with time, there are tons of resources that you can utilize at home, walking the dog, walking outside. I love, if you guys are not in the Bariatric Women's Support New Year's Challenge, there's a personal trainer in there who's doing like workouts. And she's got a program where she's going to do distance workouts. There are people who are doing distance workouts. That's a thing. When I had my surgery, my surgical center in Washington, I'm in Georgia now, they offered Skype personal training for 3 years after my surgery. So I would have sessions with him on Skype after surgery, and he would give me workouts. How awesome is that? So where there's a will, there's a way, right? Anyway, so how does this goal fit into your lifestyle? Getting clear on that is important to you. You guys are going to have this worksheet, okay? So you guys can do this on your own. I'm just guiding you through it and giving you additional information. Okay, the next section, identifying obstacles. Why? Because they will come up. Obstacles, roadblocks, little hills. I saw something today that said, why did I climb this mountain? Why did I climb this mountain to be defeated by this hill? We do it to ourselves every single day. We're having surgery, losing all of this weight, it's this huge mountain. And then we get to a stall. It's a hill. How many people you know that are like, stall? I mean, I was there. I'm not making fun of anybody. I was there. I know it. And when you're in it, it feels very overwhelming. But when you see the bigger picture, you're like, man, this is a hill. I can't let this get to me. This is a hill. And if I let this conquer me, then the next hill and the next hill and the next hill, no. You've got to take back control in here. Okay. So can you start and maintain this goal or outcome? Do you have complete control over achieving it? Right. So if we don't have complete control, the hill part, is that you? You gotta get past the hill. The hills are going to be there. We're all going to have obstacles. But if we create mountains out of molehills, we have more problems than, I'm really talking, so I'm getting the tea. Can you start and maintain this goal or outcome? So we talk about motivation. I'm going to do another live stream on motivation because I think motivation is a big topic. But I think for motivation, your why has to be big. And you've got to be committed to what it is you're trying to achieve, so much so that you have a set of non-negotiables. Now, I did not come on here to sell the book, but I talk very deep in here about your why, getting clear on your why, how your big why is bigger, getting deeper than your little why, because the little why is like, why am I doing this? Why did I have another piece of chocolate? Why am I putting the cookie in my mouth? And the little why is about whining. And the big why is about embracing your power. The big why is about getting to that. It's kind of like being empowered, getting that thing that you want and owning it. Just really owning how you want to feel. Sliding down the hill on my ass, grasping for a limb. Okay, so yes, I'm so excited. It's going to be awesome. But the big why is you getting in touch with just that deeper desire, and that you've got to have a set of non-negotiables, like non-negotiables. I was talking to another client about carbs. carbs, right? So I am not the food police. And when I was talking to my other client about the cookie, right? There are times, I mean, I've eaten a cookie. I'm not going to lie. I've eaten a cookie. If I really, really want the cookie, if I really, really want it, and it's not an emotional stress cookie. However, you've got to get in touch with, is this serving me? Is this serving me? Is this healthy? You know, how important is this cookie to me versus my goals? 9 times out of 10, cookie's not that important. If you're eating emotionally, if you're struggling with that emotional overwhelm, cookie's going to win. Unless you know how to deal with your emotions. Unless you're allowing yourself to feel those emotions. If you know where you're going to go with them. If you allow yourself to feel those things, move through them, process them, and come out the other side. Not everybody knows how to do that. And I get that. But that's a whole other very heavy topic. But you've got to have a set of non-negotiables for yourself. So I was talking to my client about carbs today, and we were talking about carb cycling. And I'm a mental health person and mindset person. I'm not a nutritionist. But she and I were talking about carbs, and we were talking about the difference in keto and carb cycling and the importance of her in carbs. And I said, well, how important is it? Like, how attached to carbs are you? And she was like, not very. And I said, are you ready for the restriction that keto gives? And she was like, I don't know. And I said, because that's a whole other, like, it's a mindset. You've got to be prepped and ready, because if you go there and you're not ready, then it feels like the diet mentality all over again. So you've got to be ready, that you know what you're doing. And we in having this bariatric lifestyle, I do eat low carb, but I also carb cycle, and there are days where I'll have higher carbs and days that I'll have lower carbs. But I also know what I'm doing. And I also understand that, you know, if you're choosing keto and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm drooling at strawberries on the screen, you know, or whatever it is, because you can't have it, then how is that any different from what life was before surgery? Like, I'm a big believer in love what you eat, enjoy it, but also have this healthy moderation, right? In terms of how you feel. So it's about shifting your relationship with food and not using food to soothe, but actually working on your emotional state. So you've got, how can you start and maintain it? You've got to have a set of non-negotiables. What are your non-negotiables? And it's got to be something that you baby step, because if it's something like, I am never having chocolate again, too big, too scary, and you're going to, it's kind of like, I'm never eating cookies again, or I'm never, ever, like, you've just put yourself in this situation where it's like, don't think about the pink elephant. Don't think about the pink elephant. Everybody is like, I see a pink elephant right there. So it's psychologically, you've got to, it's not never, no, but it's about what are your non-negotiables in terms of your health? What's the why behind what you're choosing for yourself? And you've got to baby step it over instead of, you know, running straight on and just, you know, oh, my light went off. Kind of like cutting yourself off from something. Is this making sense? So how will you change this? How will making this change affect different areas of your life? So what else might you have to deal with? So this goes back to if you're creating a non-negotiable, and when I say non-negotiable, like, okay, I'm at, 50 grams of carbs a day. Like, that doesn't mean you're never eating a cookie again. That doesn't mean you're never having chocolate again. What that means is you're limiting yourself to 50 carbs. And if that means that a Hershey's Kiss is involved, that means a Hershey's Kiss is involved. If that means you're not having, your non-negotiable is that you're working out 4 days a week, that doesn't mean that day 4, when you work till 8 o'clock at night, that you skip. That means that you go for a 15-minute walk to meet that non-negotiable instead of going for a 45-minute step class. Or you do, a yoga video at home instead of, am I making sense? Like, you've got to meet the non-negotiable, but you've also got to be firm and flexible. Firm and flexible at the same time. Because if you're not flexible with what you're working on and you have too many absolutes, like that goes back to the diet mentality. Like you're just too fixed. And it's like you've got to be able to go with the flow. And I think that that's where people get too focused on being fixed. And yes, you have to have some non-negotiables, but you've also got to know that life has ups and downs and that you've got to be able to go with the flow and make it work for you. Does that make sense? Okay. So what's good about the current situation? So I'm on question number 12. What's good about the current situation? What's the secondary gain for staying where you are? How can you keep up good aspects of where you are? Exactly, Marilyn, knowing your limits and exactly knowing your limits fluctuate. Absolutely. How can you keep good aspects while still making this change? So right now you have goals, but there are good things about where you are. So it's about keeping the good habits while improving them. So it's not like you throw everything out. What is it? The baby out with the bathwater. Has everybody heard that? Like you want to be able to take what's good about where you are right now, but then make the healthy, positive changes that are going to help you get to where you want to go. But also look at what's good about where you are. And I don't mean like what's good about keeping the weight on, but what's good about where you are. And then it could be also what's keeping you from moving forward because you're too comfortable where you are, right? So where might you be too comfortable? So I think that this question has two different meanings. Where are you too comfortable where you are that you're like maybe a little afraid or skittish about stretching outside of your comfort zone? Because that's the other thing. I'm using examples from like literally all of my clients today. I have a client who moved recently to DC and she was like, yes, I'm doing this. I'm moving outside my comfort zone. And she got there and she's making progress. And then like right as Christmas came, she's like, she's stuck. It's not a weight thing. It's just a life thing. But, so she's stuck, but not in a weight situation, but more of she's trying to move up the ladder kind of a situation. And, she's like, I don't know. I just kind of feel stuck. And so it's fear of her pushing herself out of her comfort zone to take the next steps to get to where she wants to be, to get to where she needs to be. Because now she's like, okay, I'm afraid to break status quo because if I do, something could happen. Like fear thoughts. So it's important to think about that as well. Like what could throw you, like another one of the good ones that I've seen. I don't have anybody dealing with this right now, but I'm afraid to have surgery because what if I lose the weight and my husband or wife doesn't love me anymore? Or the flip side, I'm afraid that my husband or wife is gonna have the surgery and then they're gonna leave me. Classic fear. It's gonna shake up your status quo, right? So that's an obstacle. Could be an obstacle, potential obstacle. What might you have to give up or stop doing in order to achieve this goal? Essentially, what's the price of making this change? Are you willing to pay it? So for me, I had to stop going across the street. No, where was I? Well, I was in Washington when I did this, but when I lived in Florida, I lived at the pizza place across the street. So when I think of what was the price that I had to pay, right? It was literally changing what I did consistently, not just one day, consistent. Okay. Pleasing myself, not others. Man, you've got some good ones tonight, Marilyn. Pleasing myself and not others. Right. So you've got to, stop. How do you please others? I mean, I know that there's a lot of individuals who have boundary issues. I've done a boundary class before. I probably need to do one in here. I do them at support groups. I on boundary setting. And that's one where people pleasing is huge. 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 And maybe it's that you have to say no to other people. No, can't, sorry, busy, love to, not able to. Boundary setting, right? So there's a fear that if you set boundaries that people aren't going to like you anymore. But actually what happens is when you set boundaries, people respect you more. It just takes a while because at first they get mad at you because they're like, well, why are you saying no? Why are you saying no? You always used to say yes. You always used to come over and pick them up. Well, why are you saying no now? Like almost like, how dare you respect yourself? And then when you're like, I love you, just not doing it. Then when you set your foot down, they start to respect you. Yes, I have to do a class on boundaries. I've got to. We are going to have a boundaries class. So I in my boundaries class, I talk about Brene Brown and how she turns her little ring, discomfort over resentment, because in one of her books, I love her. In one of her books, she talks about how she was publishing a book. She's doing shame research. She's doing all this stuff. And her son's school was like, we need you to make cookies. And they got to be organic and gluten-free. And she was like, okay. And she was like, I didn't have time to make cookies. And the resentment and the shame that she felt when she went to the school and totally forgot the cookies and then literally looked at her son's teacher or whoever it was and was like, so did y'all like the cookies? She's like, I cannot believe that I did that. But there's so much shame that we carry as women in terms of saying that we'll do something and just doing our best to fulfill other people's expectations of us. And then what happens? The discomfort and, well, the resentment kicks in. And I know I felt it. So I know you guys have felt it when you've said yes. And then people push and push and push. And the expectations grow and grow and grow. And then you explode. And you may not explode, like get angry, but you shut down, you stop answering the phone. Like it could happen one or two ways. I have to do a class on that. But you guys know what I'm saying. So she talks about boundary setting. So what are you going to have to change? If there was something important around achieving this goal to help you succeed, or that could get in the way that you haven't mentioned, what would it be? So if there was something important around achieving this goal to help you succeed or that would get in the way that you haven't mentioned, what could it be? So I've talked to people who have had family that are saboteurs. I have clients that take care of elderly family. And that brings on a lot of emotional stuff. And then also time. So people give excuses. So I think this is another place. Identify obstacles. It's not in here, but I want you to identify what your excuses are. What your most famous excuses are. My most famous excuse was, I just don't have time. I just don't have time. Do y'all know you can do a workout in 10 minutes? I've made meals in 10 minutes. Right? Like, excuse busted. Like, have you ever seen those little tasty videos? Like, the mushroom, like I just posted one the other day, like the mushroom pizza. Like, I'm just gonna order a thin crust or whatever. Like, that thing takes less than 10 minutes. You gotta have the ingredients, but still. Excuse busting. Bust the excuses. Okay, you work 16-hour shifts. How can you plan in advance to get your, and how many days a week do you work? And if you work 16-hour shifts, are you sitting all the time? Can you take your Fitbit or watch or whatever and do a couple 10-minute walks a day? If you're working a 16-hour shift, I'm going to guess that you're a nurse, and I could be wrong. But I have a couple different nurse clients, and I make them walk during the day. And then I make them check in with me. Okay, so you're not sitting. Okay, so what you could do, because again, if you're not sitting, you can do squats. You can do, I am not a fitness person, but I'm just telling you what I know you can do. You can do leg lifts, you can do squats, you can do arm circles, like, you can do stuff. It's just a matter of putting it to use. Okay, you're not a nurse. All right. But I'm giving you examples of what you could do, right? And they don't have to take long, because you don't have to do sets that are, you know, like repetitive, like 1 set, 2 set, 3, like you don't have to do them sequentially. You can do them like, okay, I'm going to take 3 minutes right now and I'm going to do 15 squats, right? Set your timer or whatever. And if you have like boss man watching, like don't set the timer, whatever, but just do your 15 squats and then set an alarm for later and then do another 15 squats. And then you set your alarm for 3 hours later and you do another 15 squats. Okay, the next one. Who will you have to be? This is huge. Who will you have to be to achieve this goal? Who will you have to be? Right? Because you're becoming a different person. Because the old you, right, would do different things. The old you was someone else. Your being was different. So who do you have to become as a person to achieve this goal? So your being and your doing are connected. Are you with me? Who will you have to be? Okay. The next one, goal sizing. Is the goal the right size to be working on? Is it too big? Break it down into smaller goals. Too small? Fit into a larger goal. So again, you're not 200 pounds. Awesome. I do 10 squats every time I go to the bathroom, Ashley says. Woo, woo. 200 pounds is too big of a goal. Too big. You've got to break it down into smaller goals. So if you have a quarterly goal, and it depends on where you are in your process, right? So if you just had surgery, your 3-month goal, your first 3-month goal is going to be totally different from your second 3-month goal, because it is not recommended that you strength train or do any kind of heavy activity in your first 3 months right after surgery, right? I'll talk more on that later, but there's a reason for that. You're healing. So your goals are going to be different. So, and again, it's not necessarily about the weight, but it's about how you want to feel, what size you want to get into, how you want to look, you know, other things that you want to achieve. Like I think somebody else wrote on a different post, like I want to go back to school. I want to change my career. I have a client right now who's trying to date, because she hasn't had a huge, like she hasn't dated like in forever. And, she's pretty young too. So, I think that's a thing, right? To really look at, who do I want to date, right? What is the kind of person that I want to be with? So it's not necessarily like, I want to have a boyfriend in 3 months, or I want to fit into a size 12 in 3 months, but to have it appropriately sized, and then to go, okay, what are the action steps that I need to work on a weekly and then monthly basis to achieve this? Because you might have a 1-month goal, you may have a 2-month goal, you may have a quarterly goal. So, and then what would the minimum super easy level of this goal be to achieve, right? What would be the minimum super easy goal? So give yourself a goal range so that you can achieve it. So you've got to have 3 levels, right? The minimum easy goal, the target level, and then extraordinary. So I'm just going to use a weight, even though I said not to use a weight. So let's say it's like, okay, 15 pounds in 6 weeks, let's just say. And then the average would be 10 pounds. And then the super easy would be 5 pounds. So if you have 3 levels of a specific goal, you give yourself a range. Like, all right, the minimum that I should hit here is 5 pounds. The okay range is 10 pounds. And then the extraordinary, like I hit it out of the park, is 15 pounds. Or if it's a size, like I'm hitting a size 4, a 6, or, you know, an 8. Right? But it's backwards. 8, 6, 4. So what is it that goal is that you're trying to achieve? So it could be, like I have clients that are in school too. And it's like, okay, I want to hit a 4.0, a 3.5, or a 3.0. Whatever that may be. And then you've got to focus on your resources. And I see a lot of people are dropping off. I know I'm way over time, way over that I wanted to be. What resources do you already have to help you achieve this goal? Things, people, contacts, qualities, skills, info, finances, whatever you need. Create a list of what you already have to help you work on this. And then the last question is, what resources do you still need to achieve this goal? And then create that list. Are there any questions? Because I look like I've only got one person now. I know I went really over. So if you guys work on this and dig deep, you're going to find a lot of value in this. But you've got to do it. And you've got to answer these questions. Because only you know the answers. And these goals that you set are here to inspire you, not to beat yourself up with. That's why having 3 different levels of them are really going to help you. Does anybody have any questions? I don't even know. Did anybody, did I lose anybody? Anybody have any questions? Yes, it is, Marilyn. It is such a work in progress. I'm still in progress. Like, I think we're all in progress. I don't think even when you get to goal, there's always something to improve, right? Because it's not necessarily about the weight anymore. It's other stuff too. It's life goals. It's what you want to achieve, next steps. So, for sure. Were you able to download this, Marilyn? Was everybody able to download this? Does anybody have any questions? I'm going to like everybody's little comments here. Because I appreciate everybody for coming on and watching this. Whoop, whoop. So it's, Celeste, there's a, it's in the Files tab. It's in the Files tab, and it's a PDF download. I know, I'm just finishing up. But you can rewatch the video because we started just a little after 7:15, and I went over the whole worksheet, and I kind of went into detail. So, and you'll be able to, oops, I'm like liking everything. So, and if you have any questions, just post them in the comments or tag me, and I'll be happy to answer them. So, but this is really not just about the weight. It's about helping you just really improve all the way across the board. So, and it's 21 questions to extraordinary goal setting. And I was just saying, like, once you do it, like, once you answer these questions, like, I'm not saying it's going to be easy. You know, that's saying, I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but I know it will be worth it once you do the work on this worksheet. Because you're going to gain clarity about yourself that you haven't had before. So, anybody else? All right, y'all. I'm going to close up this video. I talk about the big why in the book. If you guys haven't gotten it, it's on Amazon. The Kindle is $4.99. And I'm excited. I've also got the book club if you guys want to join that group as well, because we're going to start really hitting heavy next week. Everybody's working on chapter 1 right now. So I'm excited. So I hope you guys have a fantastic, fantastic week. And I'm going to pop in here again soon. I know more people are going to be watching this video. You know, because it's late. I mean, it's probably 5 o'clock on Pacific time. So I know there's a bunch of people who are probably going to jump on later. And so if there are any questions, feel free to tag me. I'm happy to answer them. And I will see you guys. And then I'm also going to put a link for other little workshops that people want to do. I know boundaries is a big one, so that I can start making a list of those. Sound good? All right, y'all, have a good night. Happy New Year. And keep me posted on your progress. And I will talk to you soon.